Someone asked on Instagram if I had ever done a Tate's chocolate chip cookie copycat, and I'll be honest, I'd never heard of Tate's cookies, and I had one, and it was really good. I was surprised. It was like super thin, super crisp, super buttery. So I got really excited and decided to make some thin and crisp chocolate chip cookies. How thin? This thin. How thin? It's a thin cookie. It's a super thin cookie. What's wild about this cookie dough is I'm making it in a food processor, which is not normally how cookies are made. It's very handy for making a super tender cookie, which is what we want this to be. In goes the flour, light brown sugar, and cane sugar that still has some of its natural molasses content. Those last two ingredients are important because in this particular recipe, we're trying to nail a very specific kind of copycat flavor profile, which means if you use dark brown sugar, it's not gonna taste right. If you use white sugar instead of cane sugar, it's not gonna taste right. It's not gonna look right, and it's not gonna spread right. This is the right combination to get a very specific kind of flavor profile, spread, and color. So if you don't care about those factors, it's okay to kind of play around a little bit, but if you're wanting a copycat, it's worth the effort. The other unusual thing about this recipe is that there is more sugar than flour, and that ensures that the cookies spread a ton. Sugar is a really influential factor in spread for a cookie dough. All those ingredients go in, plus some baking soda and salt, and we'll pop this lid on and process it. All those ingredients are very well combined. I'm adding the butter. And at this stage, I'm only gonna pulse it until the butter disappears into a powdery mix. I don't want it to get wet and clumpy, so I don't wanna run the motor too long or too hard, which would cause it to warm up. See what I'm talking about? It's very powdery, fine, and dry. Now, chocolate chips. Normally, I'm a big fan of chopped chocolate in chocolate chip cookies, but in this case, commercial morsels work better because they give more of a copycat vibe in terms of flavor and appearance. But I'm gonna bust them up just a little bit in the food processor. That's it. Ta-da! All right, now I'm gonna pop this into a mixing bowl so we can complete the recipe. And then I'll just like, shoom, it'll be a whole new scene. Shoom. Okay, so once the dough is mixed up, I'm gonna shake it out into the bowl. Wow, this is gonna be a real challenge. This bowl's not as big as I thought. I'm really laughing at this bowl. Okay, so now that we've got this mixture in this little bowl, gonna add my vanilla extract and 1 large egg. Ba-doop. And start incorporating them with a spatula. You might be thinking this already, and you'll certainly be thinking it when you try and make this, that this mixture looks ridiculously dry and that it's not gonna work. But it's gonna come together. You just have to have faith and believe. So at the moment, the butter is functioning more like a dry ingredient because it's still cold and solid. But as you start to mix it, it'll warm up and soften a little bit and create a little bit more of a dough-like texture, especially once the egg gets incorporated. And just get in there and knead it together until it forms a very traditional looking kind of cookie dough. Boy, this is a little bowl, you guys. So this has only been a few seconds of mixing. It's already obviously a very moist and sticky dough. We should definitely cut away from my disgusting hand. Now that our hands are clean and exfoliated, it's time to scoop up some cookie dough. I'm using a 1 tablespoon cookie scoop because that gives like perfect 3.5-inch cookies. If you've got a larger scoop, you're gonna be surprised at how much these cookies spread. So for each one of these, it's important to not only make sure you pack the dough really well into the scoop, that it's filled up, also that it's level on the side. Otherwise, if you have a really raggedy shape, the cookie's gonna spread in some unusual and unexpected directions. Quick tip, so with this or any other recipe, I never, under any circumstances, bake off all my cookies at once. Mostly because what am I gonna do with all those cookies unless I'm going to a party? It's a lot. So I always freeze my cookie dough for later. It's a little gift to myself. It's a little gift to my friends. It's a little gift to my family. The important thing is to write the date and the instructions on the bag. That way you don't get the cookie doughs mixed up. So from there, the real question is, how many cookies do you want at any given time? I like to scoop them onto a little bit of wax paper, parchment, deli sheets, whatever. So once the dough is all scooped out, I just fold the wax paper around it and then just tuck it into the bag and press the air out, seal it tight. And now I've got a little packet that I can toss in the fridge, freezer. It'll keep in the fridge for about a week or up to 3 to 6 months in the freezer. Ta-da! Cookies anytime. Okay, now these cookies are portioned up, let's bake them off. Perfection is what I do. So when these cookies are straight from the oven, you know what, we can do this. They're gonna be fragile. Look at that, that's just a mess. You gotta let them cool off. I sacrificed that guy for the team. They need to cool actually a really long time, not only until they hit room temperature, but another half an hour after that. These cookies actually improve with age, which is not something that many cookies can say. Several hours after baking is when they'll hit their absolute peak crispy, crunchy action. I wanna like mic a cookie and like snap one open so you can hear how crisp they are. Oh, we could really do that? This is the silliest day of my life. I've just mic'd a cookie. You ready for this? Yeah. Ready? You catching all that? That crispiness? So I just made all these chocolate chip cookies. They're crispy as heck. They're buttery. They're butterscotchy. They're delicious. They're my favorite. And you can't have them unless you get off your butt and start making them now. That's too confrontational. I don't want to be that confrontational.